All right, I want to go back to that breaking news out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where an ICE agent shot and killed a woman in her car. The victim is 37 years old and a U.S. citizen. And according to Minnesota U.S. Senator Tina Smith, city leaders also say she was not the target for an ICE-related arrest. And we have some new pictures of the aftermath of that shooting. You can see a bullet hole in the front windshield of that red SUV, which had crashed into a pole after the shooting. Pictures also show the driver's side headrest and seat splattered with blood. Crowds of protesters flooded the scene shortly after that shooting, clashing with federal agents. Officers set off some kind of chemical spray and pulled people to the ground. You can see one protester even throw a snowball at the officer there. Now, DHS says the ICE officer who killed the woman acted in self-defense, claiming she was blocking ICE activity with her car. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called that, quote, a garbage narrative, arguing the officer acted recklessly and demanding ICE get out of the city. Let's bring in CBS News Minnesota reporter Jonah Kaplan live for us now at the scene. Jonah, can you give us the very latest? What do things look like now?
Well, I would say that the animosity, the anger has given way to more of a somber atmosphere here. And now there's even a little memorial. You could see flowers and things being set up as this is an area where a woman was killed. Of course, there's going to be a lot of arguing and there's going to be a lot of narratives and counter narratives about what happened at that very moment. Videos show this woman in a car and whether she's turning towards an officer, away from an officer. You could probably go through it frame by frame, and depending on maybe what side of the political aisle you're on, you're going to come to your own conclusion that kind of fits that narrative. But what we do know is that tensions are very high here, and they've been high for several weeks. Operation Metro Surge, which was first started last month, led to the arrest of several people, most of them, by the way, not Somali. And that's significant because a lot of the reasoning, at least according to the federal government, about why these actions are taking place is because of the fraud scandal, the billion-dollar fraud scandal happening here in Minnesota, affecting all of these social services. But this latest action, when it comes to the infusion of several thousand, 2,000 federal agents, which is an enormous number. And when you think, yes, we're a border state, but it's the northern border. We're on the border of Canada here in Minnesota. 2,000 miles, though, from the southern border. Obviously, this is very significant.
Jonah, I want to get your gauge on sort of the temperature there of the city, given that this shooting happened about a mile away from where George Floyd was murdered several years ago. We've heard from several people who were there saying the city is still raw from that. Are you seeing the emotions from that day several years ago and the protests that ensued afterwards play into what's happening there today?
No question. I think there's a lot of distrust, and you really see that also because among the protesters, they do not distinguish between the agencies. Yes, a lot of the anger is towards ICE at the very moment, but if Minneapolis PD shows up, it's not like they're going to be given any more warmth, any more of a kind of amicable welcome than you would a federal agent. So whether it's Minneapolis Police, the Hennepin County Sheriff, the State Patrol, really the uniform doesn't matter. You're either law enforcement or you're not. And so that's something that I think you see here, and that is some of the trauma that people experience. That's some left over from what we saw 5.5 years ago.
Jonah Kaplan, thank you so much. All right, I want to bring in CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman. Katrina, I want to get your perspective on what has happened over the past few hours there in Minneapolis from a legal perspective and now the investigation that's going to follow.
I mean, as you were just talking about with Jonah, these videos of the incident that happened are going to be scrutinized. We're starting to see more and more videos emerge from different angles, get a better picture of what happened earlier today. You can see that that car was sort of blocking a lane of the road, that a truck stopped, 2 federal agents get out, approach the door, try to get the driver to get out of that car, a third crosses in front of it. The driver then reverses and tries to turn, and that's when the shooting begins. As Jonah said, how people perceive this video is very divided. We've seen President Trump say this was an act of self-defense, that the driver was trying to run over an ICE agent. Others say she was just trying to reverse and get out of the way, that this was unnecessary. This will also be analyzed in terms of, does this comport with the training, how these officers are supposed to handle this type of situation? Were they supposed to approach the vehicle in this way, to shoot at a moving vehicle of someone who appeared to be driving away? We know that the Minnesota authorities are cooperating with the FBI. This is going to be investigated on both a federal and state level. And as you were just talking with Jonah about, tensions are very high in that city right now as all of this unfolds.
I want to get to the soundbite from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who demanded ICE get out of the city, saying they're causing chaos and distrust. Let's take a listen to that.
Since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis, not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people.
We also heard there, Katrina, from Governor Tim Walz. I'm curious, what stood out to you about the mayor's message and also the message from the governor?
What the governor said is he feels that this was a predictable and totally avoidable situation. He also told Minnesotans, do not take the bait, do not allow them to deploy federal troops into here, don't allow them to invoke the Insurrection Act, and do not allow them to declare martial law. He has said that state resources have been mobilized, that the National Guard is on standby, but ultimately what he says is that enough is enough. He feels that President Trump and Kristi Noem have done enough in Minnesota, and he wants the state back in its own control. They want the federal troops out of there now.
Katrina Kaufman, thank you so much.